James, Zac Taylor has been extended. We're going to start there. We're going to talk about some of the Bengals' key free agents coming up this offseason as well, because coming off a Super Bowl loss, a lot of teams actually are fine. This idea of a Super Bowl hangover, I looked into it a little bit this morning. I asked people for research, and one of the things that goes into it, and we'll have a lot of time to talk about it, is keeping your good players together and then building on it. And so we're going to take a look at which good players the Bengals have to keep together in 2022. But let's start with the contract extension for head coach Zac Taylor. I don't see any way this wasn't happening. This was in the works for a while. Malik Wright even went so far as to say, and we're going to try to get him on the show in the near future if we can, that the coordinators' extensions were done some time ago. Taylor, though, 4-year extension, under contract now for 5 more seasons through the 2026 season. And I guess when you take your team to the Super Bowl, that's what you get. There are a lot of people, though, James, that are not still to this day to a Super Bowl loss, still not thrilled with Zac Taylor. But for me, this extension does make sense. And I think there's a lot to talk about with it and a lot of angles to discuss, but the Bengals got it done.
Yeah, and they were going to get it done. It was something that was going to get done. Malik's right. They get it. Malik right. Malik's right. They had the Callahan and Anarumo extensions basically done after those guys interviewed for other head coaching jobs, and it was clear they were staying. And so that was going to happen. Taylor was going to get extended. Was he going to get 4 years? Had they just beat the Raiders, or something like that? Maybe not. Or had they lost to the Raiders? Maybe not 4. He was getting extended, though. It was a successful season in the front office's eyes, and I understand it. And so you can look at it 2 ways to me with this extension. You can look at it as, and we've talked about all the gripes with Super Bowl 56, the personnel decisions, right? The play calling, having Mixon on the bench in critical moments, and Zac Taylor owning up to that on Wednesday. All of those things. And you could either say, one, why the hell would you give him that long of an extension given those mistakes on the biggest stage? Or 2, this is a head coach that has clearly shown a progression from when he started to where he is right now as a head coach after 3 seasons. And I do think he's getting better. I do think he's improving. And I think as a 38-year-old, he's shown the ability to adapt, change, and get better. And so you can be a pessimist, right, and say, well, why the hell would you give him that? Or B, you could say, okay, well, I see the vision. Clearly he's gotten better every year. And if this continues and the roster gets better, you want to see what he would be like with a better offensive line as a play caller. Then you see the vision regardless. So I think there's 2 ways you can look at it. But either way, I think everybody knows that this was coming, and it should. He does deserve an extension. He shouldn't go into 2022 as a lame duck coach after going 10-7 and taking his team to the Super Bowl. That being said, despite what he did this season, I do think it's fair to say, is he going to be the guy that gets this team not to a Super Bowl, but win a Super Bowl? I get having reservations about Zac Taylor still. But he's shown that progression, that upward trajectory, and that has to be what the Bengals front office saw when they gave him this deal.
Yeah, and there are a lot of things to talk about with a head coach. And with Zac Taylor specifically, he calls the plays on offense, and that is the most highly scrutinized thing, it seems like, besides maybe timeout usage or something like that, for a coach, for a head coach in football. And you're right. There have been times that he's been under criticism fairly, and in my opinion, sometimes when he's been under criticism unfairly for some of the choices that he's made in game. The Mixon not being on the field thing for the final drive is going to drive us nuts for a while. And, go back to the San Francisco game, the choice not to put the ball in Burrow's hand on 3rd down. You think they repeated that mistake with Samaje Perine in the Super Bowl? Maybe you're right, maybe not. Again, I think I said this after the game, could see the idea of running the ball there. It's 3rd and 1. You should be able to convert a 1-yard gain, and Perine nearly did. I was wrong when I said that he did on replay. It was actually, I was watching the replay on my phone. It's his hand not carrying the ball that gets past the line of scrimmage. It was still a bad spot for what it's worth. But anyway, I digress. You can have your qualms with Taylor's play calling, but where it was unfair to me, James, is we talked about this all playoffs long. They're not calling the offense they want to call. They're not running the offense they want to run. Everything is a three-step drop. And I made the mistake on Wednesday or decision of watching JT O'Sullivan's Joe Burrow breakdown from the Super Bowl. And even in the Super Bowl, I'm thinking, man, if Joe Burrow's confident in his offensive line, like not just saying he's confident, but actually confident, and they can call 5-step, 7-step drops, and Joe Burrow can actually work the backside of some of these plays, and you can actually, instead of just running mirrored concepts, running dragon on both sides of the field, you can actually have a backside concept, which is where the Rams killed the Bengals in the Super Bowl on some of those over routes. So like Odell Beckham, for example, for a big play. Cooper Kupp got one too, I think. Joe Burrow is going to take a step. He's going to level up. And he was already really good this year. So I'm sitting here thinking, like, is it the play calling or is it the personnel decisions? And obviously some of the decisions about the offensive line fall on Zac Taylor and this coaching staff because they're highly involved with the front office in Cincinnati. We know that. But it's just such a back and forth, right? That it makes you wonder how much better he can be or would be if he has an offensive line. He's admitted that he's made mistakes. You would like to think he'd learn from them. And he said it himself. He would like to think that head coaches are allowed to improve as well. And that's what the Bengals are banking on here because the culture is A+ fantastic. And that's a big part of head coaching too. He's going to get scrutinized for the play calling stuff, and fair enough, that's his job. But the culture he's created shouldn't be overlooked either. And I think that everyone can agree that that is absolutely fantastic.
And that's why the biggest reason for optimism is how the culture has changed and how the Jim Turners are gone and how it feels like everybody's bought in and Lou Anarumo's evolution and all of these things. Right. So again, much like a Joe Burrow to Jamar Chase and T Higgins, right. That trio, you would hope that Zac Taylor, Brian Callahan, Lou Anarumo would just continue to slowly get better and continue to progress and continue to improve. And if they do, well, man, we saw what Lou Anarumo can do with guys that he feels confident in. We saw what Brian Callahan could do, dialing up different plays and really being an extension of Zac Taylor, how they work. And so I think the potential's there, but it's going to come back to the offensive line all off season long, right? And so that's the part of it that we're going to have to talk about, that we're going to cover, and that we're going to discuss for the next couple of months. And even after that, probably, regardless of the moves we make or they make, we're still going to be talking about how that's going to impact the trenches, because that's the next key to unlocking this team. And a couple key offensive linemen are free agents, at least key as in starters this season. We'll dive into those guys and more next, right here on Locked On Bengals.